Hi, this is CS201 Group 1 Team 5 and our video will be on Quadtree compression. This is our table of contents. We'll be going through a brief explanation on how Quadtrees can be used to compress data. Then we will explain how we use Quadtrees for this project to compress images. Then we will describe some experimentations we did with our code and the trade-offs observed, and finish off the video with the X factor of our code. Let's get started on quadtrees. Quadtrees are basically a tree data structure in which each internal node has exactly 4 children. It can be used to partition a 2-dimensional space into smaller subspaces by splitting it recursively into 4 quadrants. It also takes advantage of the fact that cells in a grid are often the same as its adjacent cells. If they are similar enough, there is no need to split it into 4 children nodes. The image on the right is a simple example of quadtree compression. As you can see, the green cells in the top right quadrant and the orange cells in the bottom left quadrant are combined together into a single node. However, the top left and the bottom right quadrants are not similar enough. Thus, they are split into 4 children nodes. In terms of the actual tree structure, we start from the root node, and whenever the data is split into 4 quadrants, the node is split into 4 children nodes. The similar regions in the quad tree are identified by leaf nodes. The lower the depth of the leaf node, the smaller the region. Quadtrees can implement both lossless and lossy compression. For lossless compression, the data is only compressed if the neighboring data is exactly the same. However, for lossy compression, the data can be compressed if the neighboring data is similar enough that it can be approximated, albeit with some loss. As we can see on the right, the top left and bottom right quadrants have been combined together, with the average of their RGB colors taken as the overall color. So how do quadtrees compress images? Firstly, we start with the image to be compressed. We will then split this image into 4 quadrants. The root node is split into 4 children nodes. Then, we calculate the relevant properties of each section, such as its mean color, XY coordinate, width and height, and assign it to the children nodes. At each iteration, find the non-homogeneous regions and split it into 4 quadrants. Homogeneity is measured by the standard deviation of the pixel values within the region. Repeat the process recursively until the desired level of compression is achieved. Then, once the quad tree is complete, encode the data contained in each leaf node. To reiterate, the encoded data contains both data related to the quad tree, such as its depth, as well as its data-related properties. To decompress the compressed image, we simply decode and obtain the data contained in each leaf node. The leaf node's data will naturally tell us which part of the image it corresponds to, because we encoded its information previously. In this example, the first leaf node at 1 corresponds to the top left quadrant of the image and is a 4x4 pixel region. In this next example, the node labeled 2 has been split into 4 children nodes, and one of its children has been further split into another 4 children nodes. The red square denotes the pixels at the lowest depth of the tree, and we can see that there are 3 white squares and 1 black square, which corresponds to the information displayed in the tree. After researching how quadtrees worked, we then made our own implementation of quadtree compression, which we will show you now. We declared some new classes, the first of which is basic node. We used basic node to define basic properties of the image to be stored, such as the node's x and y coordinate, width, height, and color. Next, node is a class that extends basic node and is used to represent the actual nodes within the quadtree. We have a method called isLeafNode, a Boolean value method to tell the encoder whether it is a leaf node or not. Then, the second method in this class is setNodeColor, which sets the average RGB value of the node.
The most important class we declared is of course the quadtree itself. The constructor controls some important variables such as the max depth and color similarity threshold. When we begin compressing the image, we first create a quadtree with a null root node. We then generate the average color of the entire image. We then iterate over the pixels in the region. If no pixels have an RGB value that has a greater difference than the similarity threshold, the loop does not break and the node is a leaf. However, if there is a pixel that has an RGB value differing greatly from the node's RGB value, the node is not a leaf node, and then we split it into 4 child nodes. After this entire iterative process, the tree will be generated. We encode each leaf and its contained properties into a series of bits. To decode the compressed file, we first decode the leaf nodes and get their properties.
For each leaf node, using its width and height, add its RGB value into the respective location in the 3D array of pixels.
This slide shows an example of an image undergoing our compression and decompression algorithms. Now, we move on to the experimentations. Firstly, we tried using different color similarity thresholds. The typical one we used was 80%, but we tried lowering it, specifically to 75%. We hypothesized that there would be a better compression size but higher error rates, and this was indeed reflected and proven true in the results. On the right, you can see the results of the different compression.
The compression might not seem much worse to the human eye, but there are much higher error rates. Secondly, we forced the Quadtree to be of a smaller height. We also hypothesized that there would be better compression size, but much worse compression in terms of MAE and MSE. This was indeed true, as seen from the results on the right. This time, the compression is visibly much worse. The Quadtree cannot further subdivide into children nodes even if the pixels have a much different RGB value than its region. Here's our X factor!
We encode small, medium, and large images separately so that we can ensure the most efficient compression. Before encoding the file, we determine whether the file is small, medium, or large. After determining the size of the file, we can then save the number of bits written for each leaf node, ensuring it is the minimum required. If the image is small, the encoder only needs a maximum of
log base 2 of 1024
equals 10 bits to write the leaf's XY coordinate, width, and height. Similarly, medium images need
log base 2 of 4096
equals 12 bits. Large images need
log base 2 of 16384
equals 14 bits. This is a short snippet of the different implementations of our encoding. As you can see, we have encode small, encode medium, and encode large. All these have different implementations to write different numbers of bits for each property. To better implement this, we wrote to the file two Boolean values,
more than 1024
and
more than 4096.
These Boolean values only take up 2 bits, so it's space efficient. The first thing we then decode from the encoded files is the two Boolean values,
more than 1024
and
more than 4096.
This is used to determine the category of the size of the file. We then decode according to the adjusted bits for the small, medium, and large images. Similarly to the different encoding methods, we have different decoding methods to account for the different size of images.
We've come to the end of our video. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.